A warm welcome from my side to Sander from Areto. I would like to welcome you to our webinar, Boost Your Data Warehouse Performance by 388%. And we want to tell you something about this topic in the next 45 minutes. So we are these three people. They will introduce themselves for now, and then we will start with the webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Till. So I'll start as I'm on the left. Carsten Weidmann, Technical Alliance Manager and Global Partner Enablement Lead for Exasol. We'll talk all about Exasol today in this webinar.
Peter, if you are talking, you're muted.
I need to unmute myself. Okay, so my name's Peter Bellas. I'm from 2150. We are the company behind the Datavault Builder, and I will tell you a little bit about our automation tool and how it works together with Exasol and how we can profit from the new Exasol versions and what we do for our clients that they can profit from new database versions and stuff like that.
And my name is Till Sander. I'm CTO at Areto, and I advise our customers on the architecture and implementation of new future-oriented analytical platforms. I've been dealing with the topics of data integration, data warehousing, business intelligence, and data science for over 20 years, and I enjoy very much working together with Exasol and Datavault Builder, and that's why we want to show you something about this topic. So our agenda for today is, so we will first start with the questions why customers do need fast and agile analysis platforms, and more importantly here, how do you get there? And then we will have a short Exasol 7 presentation. We will talk about Datavault Builder, and then we will show you how the performance boosts with these two software versions, with the new software versions of Exasol 7 and the Datavault Builder. And then we will give a proof that all we were talking about is working in real life. And then we will just spot on the cooperation of us three, and we will end this webinar with a Q&A session if you have any questions left. So the working title of the webinar is called Boost Your Data Warehouse Performance by 388%. And later on, we will talk about how well Datavault Builder and Exasol are able to design and process data quickly. But I would like to briefly talk about the necessary preparatory work. How do I even manage to identify the data necessary to base strategic decisions on? And we actually see the path to a data-driven company as a version. And as analogy for this topic, we at Areto have chosen the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as topic for this. The hitchhiker's journey starts with a lack of information. So the Earth is to be destroyed in favor of a hyperspace express route. And on the Earth, the people could have appealed, but they simply did not have the information about the building plans. So what we want to help you here, so we want to avoid the similar lacks of information here. And we structure this journey with our customers into several sections. The exact plan depends, of course, on what we already encounter as prerequisite for the customers. And the hitchhiker, in our case, the customer, then has the opportunity to board at any station on this trip. So we start with a basic classification of the term data-driven company. What does this mean for the specific company? What added value would it bring to the company to be really data-driven? And on this basis, in the information strategy workshop, we discuss the organization and governance of analytics in the company. In the analytics strategy workshop, we define which information goals should be achieved and which questions should be answered. And in the data platform strategy workshop, we deal with the right data platform architecture. The results of the previous sessions are summarized in the trip advisor, and the concrete next steps are arranged in a roadmap. As the last phase of this journey, for the time being, a concrete example will be used in a proof of concept to prove that the procedure and the architecture bring real added value. For our POCs and the implementation of modern analytical platforms, in general, a standard data warehouse architecture has been developed, which I would like to briefly outline next. So modern data warehouses are agile. I guess most of you would support that now. But how do I manage to provide the right information to customers based on heterogeneous source data? At the center of our data warehouse, there is an integration layer based on Datavault 2.0. I don't want to go into details here now. Maybe just this much, Datavault is more and more recognized as the standard for modeling agile data warehouses, and we realize nearly 100% of our data warehouse projects really on basis of a Datavault 2.0 architecture. To abstract the technical structures on the Data Vault, we build a series of layers on this Data Vault model. First of all, we find a layer which we call business objects that translates the technical objects into entities. And then this maps the business logic in the transformation layer. This maps the business logic based on these entities. And finally, we define an output layer for consuming these objects and this data. Generally spoken, we can work well with these view cascades, but especially for performance reasons, it may be necessary to write the results to the transformations back to the Data Vault, respectively the Business Vault. There are three things to consider in this concept. The entire process from connecting the source to the output object should be fully automated in order to be able to set up the data warehouse quickly and with a high quality. The layers on top of the Data Vault should be virtualized as far as possible in order to be able to implement the necessary agility here. And last but not least, we need, of course, optimal performance in order to be able to process the data quickly. We meet this criteria with the combination of Exasol and Datavault Builder. With the latest innovations in particular, this procedure can be implemented even better, which is now presented in details. Oh, sorry, that was already the next slide by Carsten and Peter.
Yeah, so as Till mentioned, there are basically two components for this besides the data model itself, and one is Exasol. So what is Exasol? It's rather provoking the right choice for your analytical database. It is, as it states here, analytical database. To run your data platform, be it a data warehouse, be it just an analytic data mart, or whatever you want to call it, right on that. That's the main purpose of this database. We try to unite the worlds of BI, but also of data science. That means it's a database where you can run all your analytical tasks, but we have added means to it that allow you to develop actually also data science code, data science algorithms, and run them inside the database to bring that world of data science also into your world of BI and do that stuff directly in the database. For example, using your Data Vault model at the bottom, and then maybe in the business layer, you add stuff in your views that does data science, predictive analytics, or anything like that. One of the main goals, besides the performance, which is the biggest goal, of course, and that's why we're also here today to talk about, is that we provide a database management system that actually comes with low administration and therefore also with low TCO. That means you just set up the database and run it. Put your data in there, deploy your data model, and we'll see now later with the demonstration of Peter using Datavault as an example. Put in your data and then just use the views that you created for your business, for your transformation layer, for your BI front-end layer, and then just run it without having to think about what kind of optimizations do I have to apply, what do I have to change, what kind of indexes or anything like that do I need to create in order to make this setup, this platform run fast. Nowadays, more and more important, of course, is the choice of platform. You don't want to be bound to something that runs on premises, but nowadays many companies move towards the cloud. However, still also having things on premise, and therefore maybe also preferring a sort of a hybrid setup where they have parts of their data in the cloud, where they want to benefit from the flexibility, from the ability to just start up and shut down systems and then save money from that. But on the other hand, also have maybe data that they cannot or do not want to put into the cloud as due to regulatory reasons, anything like that. So this might then lead to some sort of hybrid setup, which is also possible with Exasol. So we have all these options available. Wherever the client wants to, or you want to deploy the system, you can do this. Optimize for Datavault 2. We'll talk about that in a second, what exactly is in there. But one of the important things also, as I mentioned before, that we are aim for performance. According to the latest BARC, the data management survey, we are the fastest, according to our customers, the fastest and most reliable platform. Also achieving a 100% recommendation rate. Leading that survey in many different areas. So when I move on to the next point, and I hope this works now. Yes. With Exasol 7, we went especially also in that area of Datavault. As we have seen in the past, the Datavault becomes more and more important. We added a few things to version 7 to make sure that actually the combination of Datavault and Exasol is a good combination and works even better. One is the new hash data type. How that looks like I'll touch in a second, which is basically one of the key components when you do Datavault is you create your surrogate keys as usually as hashes, and having a specific data type for that allows you to execute all the querying, but also data transfer, data ingestion at a much higher speed, much better pace, and therefore get a better performance. We also added, as unstructured or semi-structured data is more and more popular. You have more and more web APIs that supply you with JSON data, document databases. So this kind of data is more and more important to also be able to analyze inside the database. Maybe not always have to predefine before loading that data into your database what the structure should look like in the database. We have these necessary functions also inside the database now, so that we can directly also work on this JSON type of data. You can query it, extract information from that, etc. Some more things like consumer groups. That means getting even more enterprise ready, allowing to define different consumers, types of consumers, giving them different quotas and limitations, basically, so that also in large enterprise scenarios you can get or you can more fine-granularly assign the resources to individual user groups and make sure that everyone gets the right amount of resources. Just as a last thing that I want to touch here, as I mentioned before, we unite the world of BI and data science, and one part in data science, and not unimportant, is when you do stuff like machine learning, when you do stuff like predictive analytics, when you do trainings for these, but also running these predictions. One thing that really helps you, and especially becomes more and more important as you move to the cloud, because there you have the flexibility to use these, are the GPUs. And with Exasol 7, you can actually leverage these GPUs in our so-called user-defined function framework, which is basically the framework that allows you to develop data science algorithms and execute them within the database inside your SQL statements. And GPU support means you can leverage the GPUs that you can very freely connect and use when you are in the cloud. On premises, probably not so much, but in the cloud, all cloud providers offer this option that you connect GPUs to your existing machines and then leverage these in order to run these predictions, etc. That's it for now with version 7. And now over to, I hope this works at one point, Datavault Builder and Peter.
Good. So I unmuted myself, so I learned. Oh, what? So what is the Datavault Builder first? Because some of you might have heard about it, some of you not. Datavault is modeling technique separating data in its core functions. And this means that if you have like a classical third normal form table, you have usually mixed up stuff like keys, like relations and attributes, defining or giving you information about the key. And Datavault is splitting that up into different bits. And to model this, you need some kind of tooling. Why? Because it gives you a lot of objects in the database that you need to manage. The nice thing is that you can, on a logical level, model very similar as you did before. So you're working with core business concept, you're working with relations, and you're working with contexts like attributes defining your core business concepts. And the Datavault Builder is taking this logical data model and translating it into a technical implementation on the database. And why we like so much to working with Exasol is that we are using the ELT approach, because we know how to translate a model into working code. We know how to version it, how to deploy it, how to do collaboration between different modelers and visually display this nicely, but we are not specialized on storing data, on moving data around physically, and that's where Exasol comes into place. So we generate, based on the data models, all the structures to be stored, means tables. We as well generate views, as we heard before. In the beginning, some of the layers are virtual, and this works very well on Exasol because of the performance they have for querying these views. And we are generating as well the loads, and the loads are, in most cases, ELT commands. So we are sending SQL code to Exasol, it's executing the work and giving you together the performance. We are in the performance of creating the model, of orchestrating everything, and below the database gives you the performance of moving and querying the data very, very fast. So why is the combination especially beneficial for you? Is Exasol is the fastest platform with cloud and on-premise option. And in fact, that's really something important for many of our clients. They say, okay, I maybe want to move in 3 or 5 years into the cloud, but today I want to start on premises because of the legal stuff and work we need to do, or we need to have a fallback. Imagine that at some point you get into trouble because maybe about pricing with some cloud providers. You want to have the options to have a fallback and negotiation power to decide where you run your stuff, and that's possible as well with Exasol and the Datavault Builder. By the design that we have, the architecture, both of them are cloud native, but you can run them wherever you want to run it. You get virtual machines, you get Docker options and stuff like that. So you really choose which version of the software you're running where. And we are adding to the core database functionality, the modeling. We make the operations ready part. So as soon as you model something, you can run it, you can test it, and you can deploy it. So you don't need to worry about writing your deployment scripts. And that's exactly what the mindset of Exasol is, that you have not a lot of administration costs. We are adding this to creating the model, deploying the model, making it as automatic as possible. And the nice thing is, and now we come why we're in this webinar, we are standardizing a lot. So we are taking the Datavault process and we say that's given. So you can't model every possible data model in the Datavault Builder. As well, you hear it in the name. but the process that we are automating, we are doing very good, and we are doing specialized for certain databases, where Exasol is one of them, and as I say, in many regards, the best option. And by this, as soon as Exasol 7 develops new features, we can change our patterns. And the point is not that we only change the patterns for our customers, that they don't need to do this work themselves, but we deliver them as well update scripts. So we have long-time customers which used Exasol version 6, now moving slowly to version 7 as it came out. And everything that they need to do is just install the newest version of the Exasol database. They upgrade using a Docker switch to the newest version of the Datavault Builder. The Datavault Builder will recognize that they are using a new database. It will change the technical implementation of the model on the database without any manual work. And this doesn't mean that the logical business model is changing, what they need to do in their business, but the technical implementation becomes faster, it uses less space, and it will work better in the future. And we have already the first clients that moved to the Exasol version 7, and we have seen exactly what we here tested in our test, that it's using less storage, it's faster in input-output operations, and it's giving a really good experience to our clients. Good, so what have we tested and how do we compare? Why do we see such kind of performance increase? And you need to take into consideration that the performance increase for existing clients, showing that we are both Exasol and Datavault Builder working as well for the existing clients to save their, to protect their investment. So they don't need to do anything, they just need to upgrade and they will get these gains. So how did we test that? What is the result and how did we reach that? Why is it logical that we got to such results? So the setup was we tested Datavault Builder version 4 with Exasol version 6 against Datavault Builder 5 with Exasol version 7. We used where possible Docker-based deployment because this allows us to set up new environments in a few minutes. The restriction, as we did these tests, that's not true anymore. Exasol 7 was only available as a virtual machine. In the meantime, we have as well the Docker containers, which allows us to include this everything in our regression testing, and everything is again on the normal track. We on purpose needed to slow down a little bit the hardware because in the first version we did this test, it was so fast already with the old version and with the new version because we didn't have enough data to come to the limit. So really we on purpose, we try to use slower hardware with less memory so that we see disk operations and can as well compare how it works overall, even if you're at the limits of your system. Okay, what we did as well is hub loads, satellite loads, compared them in different combinations with a lot of columns, with less columns, have seen with different data type in the source system if they behave differently. And what we did as well, we did a cool down, so we emptied, flushed the caches in between, because in Exasol there's a really nice feature. If you do the same query twice, it answers instantly because it's still in the memory, it's still cached, so it doesn't do anything. Yeah, it does, it gives you the result, but it doesn't need to do any work to calculate the result. So we needed on purpose to flush the caches in between. Good. We didn't do any scientific testing because it was everything really at the edge of development, but there will be later this year as well some more automated tests that other people will publish on this. Good. What are the results? In certain operations, the first thing is we're starting with the first layer, which is staging, bringing the data from external sources into our staging area. And there we are already calculating some surrogate keys, namely the hashes for your business keys. And here we got already the first increase of speed because the new data type is using less space. It's calculated more efficiently, so it's a little bit faster, but it's just about writing a table. The next thing got much faster, and that's the hub load. So we compared now the staging area against the target object where we store all the keys. And here we do a comparison based on the hashes. And here already you see by using less IO, by using less memory, it can compare much faster and write down the data as well fast. And the interesting point, even as well for satellites, it became much, much faster. Even here, less the hashes are involved, but some comparison, some joining is based on that. And here as well, we need to say we improved as well the patterns on our side, because we did different tests. We got feedback from Exasol. They analyzed our queries, gave us feedback and said what can be done better, and we implemented that into the Datavault Builder version 5. Just to do like a simple comparison, uniqueness check on the business keys is about 200% faster. So that's just from the database. Here in this result in the hub loads and satellite loads, that's change of our patterns and change of the data types. Good. What we did as well is that we increased the GUI performance, because our tool works very, very close with the database. So it's accessing the metadata, and everything in the metadata of the database gives us our model. And that's a special way of ensuring that our model is never deviating from our implementation. So you could do changes in the database. You could remove like hub table satellites. The next time we'll look at the database, we will realize it and adapt the model. And by that, we are very, very agile, because even small changes in the database that were not done in the tool are recognized as well. And here we added some caching, we added some connection pooling, and that resulted in very, very nice touch and feel in the graphical user interface, that if you like work visually and extend your model, that the responses get faster, the creation of objects get faster by sending optimized pattern routes to the Exasol database. So it's not just the processing, it's as well the touch and feel, what is now in the tool, and that is everything for the existing clients included in their upgrade path and protecting their investment.
Yeah, so on the Exasol side, as I mentioned before, we have added a new hash data type that is basically, as before, the hashes were created and stored as character fields. For example, if you used MD5, it was usually a character 32. The characters are never really optimal or great, especially when it comes to joining, and Datavault is one of these data models where you join a lot, which is usually fine with Exasol, but joining character fields is not as good as joining some binary fields, some decimal fields, for example. So that's why we created the new hash data type, which is the binary native data type. As you can see here, it's hash type 16 byte. That's for the MD5 data type, hash type. Of course, we also support all of the other hash functions now as hash type functions. We still have the old ones available that create character values, but the hash type functions now create the hash data type, which is a native data type. And if you look on, so what was the impact? On the right, you see a little test, or the results of a test, a performance test that our development team did when they compared the character hash types with the hash data type hash type versus decimal 36, so basically a binary value. And the results clearly show that we very much outperformed the character data types, but in some parts even were faster than regular decimal 36. That means the hash type actually is down to that performance level, or is at that performance level that you can achieve when using decimal data types, and you can use binary data types. Other impacts are the hashing can be done much faster. So the results here on the right side, those are select queries, but the hashing can be done much faster, or faster using the new hash functions. Of course, using a binary data type always leads to a reduction in memory footprint, which also leads to a reduction in I/O. And what we also added to the mix were, you probably saw it, there's a preview optimizer in version 7 available, but we also implemented optimizations or improvements for the optimizer for Datavault already in the current version 7, in the regular optimizer. And we're currently also working on a new optimizer, which is already available as an experimental one, where everyone can see whether the new optimizer actually executes queries better or not. It's available, you can free switch it on and off. So this is basically what also from an Exasol side led to this improved performance and results.
Good. So what we did is we tried to see what can we do a small bit to improve the communication between the tool and the database. So what we added is a connection pool. So we have some standing connections between the tool and the database. That's especially very beneficial because in Datavault execution, we use a lot of parallelization. So we can really send each command for the separate loads on separate connections. As well, what we have added is a cache on the metadata, because some queries are happening quite often, especially if we have several users working on the same system. We are now, when we're starting up the system, read all the structures from the database into our cache. We regularly check it if it's still in sync, but as well, if you're working directly in the tool, we are updating the cache directly before we send the commands to the database, so it's even faster. We have a new version of patterns for loading stuff. That's honestly, in this small amount of rows that we did now here in the comparison test, even didn't play too much role. So on bigger loads, even it has more impact. So where we really took 1 billion rows per load. And if you see this amount of data, that's exactly why Carsten is talking about a database optimized for analytics. It's not like that here we are loading like 1,000 or 5,000 rows and benchmarking on that. We're talking about really huge amounts of rows coming in one batch load and comparing very well. We are using the new hash type for sure. And for the existing clients, they can really choose to opt out, but if they won't just go on, they install the new versions, and as soon as we recognize the Exasol 7 database, it will do a conversion. It will go through the objects step by step, update them, report what was updated, and you get a really new working functional model.
Okay, so now we heard that this is really working good together, and as a proof that what we presented today also works in real life, I would like to briefly introduce 3 use cases to prove this. The first example is at the European Space Agency, which quite impressively shows that the combination of Datavault Builder and Exasol also works on a very large scale. Good 6 months ago, this data warehouse, which is fully automated with the Datavault Builder, had 235 hubs, 668 links, and 2,646 satellites. So that's really a lot of objects, a quite big data warehouse. And on top of this, there were 216 views and nearly 500 views for transformations. So all this is virtually implemented in the database as views. And the Exasol as basis worked on 200 gigabytes of RAM. So that's not so much. It's okay, but yeah, it could be bigger. And this database processed a maximum of 27,000 commits per hour. So this shows how many loading processes and sub-processes were executed here. And I think you can imagine quite well that this combination of Datavault Builder and Exasol is working on real high-scaled systems very, very good. And it's working very good. It's still on the Datavault Builder 4 and Exasol 6, but of course this system would heavily get improved by switching to the newer versions. The next example is Eat Happy, a sushi manufacturer. We started this journey towards a data-driven company as described before. And in the POC and afterwards, we were faced with the technical challenge of collecting the individual transactions from the various sales stations in a wide and very colorful variety of formats. And we had the task to consolidate them into the new data warehouse. So that was a real challenge for an automation tool like the Datavault Builder to accept all these formats and put this into the Datavault system. But it worked very well. And yeah, on this basis, we today can make predictions regarding sales volumes and production demands, and an update to Exasol 7 and of course then Datavault Builder 5 is already planned in order to be able to work even more with virtualization in the database. Today there are some processes persisted in the database, so this write back into the business vault is still happening, but as we get much more performance out of Exasol 7 and Datavault Builder 5, we will plan to virtualize a lot more in the future. And one project we already started with the new versions is at Melita. They are, yeah, there we were in the comfortable position really to being able to start on the latest versions of these tools. And we already can see that this is a very good performance, and especially the join performance is significantly faster. And as Peter told us, even the interaction with the software itself, with the GUI, is really fast and smooth, and that's a big improvement. And there we even don't think about persisting data in the business world. We work with virtualization views much longer, and this works really good. And we just started another POC on this space, and with a lot of data, and we are really, I wouldn't say surprised, but we are very happy with the performance we are finding here. And yeah, it's really working with another system here. So that's really great. Okay, so I hope we could show you that in these and other projects we have proven that the combination of Exasol and Datavault Builder works very well. And yeah, last but not least, the combination of us three together with Areto is really a good combination. We have this similar philosophy and approach where we form a powerful team that enables our customers to optimally support data warehouse projects strategically and technically. And if there is a problem in a project for technical reasons, we can be assured that a brilliant and very fast support gets the problems out of the way very fast. And sometimes it's the problem is really solved overnight. So that's really astonishing. And so I think we three together form a very good team of realizing these data warehouse projects, and everything is there. So the good technology, good people, good methods, and all together is really the key to successful analytical projects and platforms here. So yeah, so with our conclusion, save time, be agile, and scale the hell out of your data, I would like to thank you for your attention and move on to the final round of questions and discussions. So let's see if there are questions. So I have one. Okay, I think that goes to Peter. The question is if 100% is twice that fast as before. So maybe you could explain your impressive percentages there again. So
if you say 388%, it means that it's 3.88 times faster. It used 3.88 times less speed. So you take the original amount of seconds it run divided by that number, and that's the result that you get. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So 100% would be the reference. Okay. Yeah. I understand. Yeah. So maybe another question here for Peter. The licensing of Datavault Builder, how is this working?
So we are primarily looking at two things. One is the sizing of your database, what is as well Exasol doing, but I'm not talking of Carsten maybe can say more about that, and the number of developers. What we don't do, we don't charge you for any test or development systems, because we believe that the ITIL conform development path, which we really support very well by using Git flow and everything, is something that should be used by you. And that's why we don't want to limit it by licenses. So you just pay once for your production server and the number of developers, and you're good to go. It's the same price if you're in the cloud or on premises. You really choose the setup that is most beneficial for you.
Yeah, and maybe to add, just as Peter mentioned, the Exasol side to this, similar approach in terms of independent of where you deploy it, cloud or on premises. It's a very simple pricing model that's based on the raw data volume that you store in the database, independent of the number of users, number of queries, processing, or whatever. It's just the raw data volume, and that's it. Whether you deploy on a single machine or in a cluster, that's up to you, but doesn't have any effect on the license.
Okay. And maybe there's another question for both of you, if there is some kind of trial version, open source version to test this.
Maybe just start with start with the Exasol part. So with basis, yes, there are multiple options to test this. We have a community edition, we call it. That's the virtual machine that also Peter mentioned, free for download from our website. Only limitations are single node and 200 gigabytes of raw data that can be stored in there. We're also available on Docker, so you can find Exasol there as well. And in the cloud, you can also set up something like a community. That means you don't pay for the software, just for the hardware that you want to run. So we have the free options available on all platforms.
And for the Datavault Builder, it is as the tool itself, as soon as you're used to it, as soon as you understand the approach, is very simple, but the learning curve at the beginning, because it's a data warehouse product, integrating a lot of data sources and everything, and there are a lot of different options. What we offer is that we give a so-called free personalized webcast where we talk about your challenges, we can explain you how it's done. And in the second step, what we offer is something called co-modeling, where you bring your own desensitized data, and we work within 3 or 4 hours from the source to a working report and showing you all things that can be done. And this is usually that saves your time and gives you a very good insight already. And then the next step is usually to go for a POC, where you can then work together with the database and the tool. You just pay our partners for the resources they use to help you getting your POC running.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, there's another question. Maybe I can answer this. It's about the output. How long does it take to generate the first output? So we are doing a lot of POCs with Exasol and Datavault Builder, and so this ramp up phase is nearly not existing. So for Exasol, you need a server, of course. Installing the database itself is very easy. You take a virtual image, or you're taking a Docker container, whatever. So this takes, I don't know, less than 30 minutes, I would say. And then there is the installation of the Datavault Builder. Again, it's supplied by a Docker container. So this takes, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe. Of course, there are still some configuration issues, but that's really fast. So ramp up is done within 1 or 2 hours in general, and then you start working with both of it. So you start modeling immediately. Learning Datavault Builder is very easy. Of course, you need to know the concepts behind Datavault, but using the tool and starting modeling is very easy. And working with Exasol it's a database which is self-optimizing. Just switch it on and use it. So we can start creating the output right now. So when we are doing POCs, we normally do this within five days, and normally at day 4, we say, okay, now we realized everything, we implemented everything we were planning to implement. So what will we do with the last day? So it's really a completely new way of working, of designing data warehouses, and it's very easy to use, and you're creating output immediately. Okay, so maybe one last question, and I think it's for both of you. What about cloud? Is it possible to use everything here we saw in the cloud?
From my side, very short answer, yes, because as we have the Docker-based deployment, you choose your cloud provider. We don't even limit you to Azure or AWS. We can take as well local providers, like we have here in Switzerland, a lot of Swisscom users or stuff like that. As soon as you can run Docker containers, which is nearly all the cloud platforms, you can use the Datavault Builder in combination. Now hand over to Carsten.
Yeah, exactly. So Exasol with the public clouds, it's available in the marketplace, so you can either use our cloud tools or go directly to the marketplace and set up a database directly in these cloud providers. But of course, we also run in private clouds, either as a Docker version or in some other sort of setup. So that also works, and that's also what Exasol, where Exasol is available. So all these options, yes. The brief answer from Peter from the beginning, yes.
Very good. Okay, so there are no more questions at the moment. So whenever you have a question, you got our contacts, so don't hesitate to contact us and ask your question. And yeah, from my side, I would say thank you